I'm still not sure, you know. The Volnus, okay, it's 200 platinum to buy outright, or you can build it. You do need those 2 Argon crystals though, and 225 Oxium isn't really that much. 875 Cryotix fairly easy to get. It's just the damage on this seems kind of low. The reason I'm saying this is because if you compare it to the Cyanoid Heliocore here, you can clearly see it's got more balanced damage across the damage types. It's got 22 impact instead of the 102 that the Cyanoid Heliocore here has. The puncture is way higher, the slash is ridiculously higher, the status is 30%, okay, the crit's only 18, but it does have an attack speed of 1.2, which is really quick for hammers, considering things like the Fragor here was really heavy on impact, lower on the rest, but swings really slow. Same with the Fragor Prime, kind of a ridiculously slow firing weapon. Heliocore, same thing, based on impact, being a giant hammer, but attacks slow. Does have more crit, which is one of the reasons I actually used it, which is weirdly why I kind of liked the Arca Titran, because it was more rounded. It had no puncture, but the damage was more rounded. That still has, well, better stats than this, but attack speed of 0.7. This 1.2 is going to be its saving feature, and it does come with a V polarity as well. That's really useful. Calling this thing a unique weapon does seem kind of silly. It's a hammer that looks like an axe, so it does do more slash than other hammers that do impact, hence the reason the slash of 46 is higher than the impact of 22, with a little bit of puncture at 32 thrown in there as well. So 22 impact, 46 slash. It's a axe hammer. It's pretty much the only thing that makes it special. Its attack speed isn't actually that bad at 1.2. The status of 30% will go up to 100% using the 4 dual stat elemental mods. Depending on which order you actually want to put them in, something like Prime Fury might be a bit much with a 1.2 base attack speed. So you basically Prime Pressure Point, Body Count and Drifting Contact. Body Count will increase the combo duration by 12 seconds, Drifting Contact does the same thing by 10 but adds 40% status chance. Obviously Prime Pressure Point adds more damage, and then the 4 dual stat elemental mods because, well, 100% status is just way better. Annoyingly, it can't really reach it with that on, so that whole condition overload build would also work if you format this and then maybe took off something like primed reach, because of course condition overload adds 60% melee damage for each enemy type affected the target, each status type affecting the target, sorry, and that works out pretty well if you are using all 4 of the dual stat mods. Personally, I didn't bother formering this. I basically have blast damage using Vicious Frost and Volcanic Edge, and then corrosive with Virulent Scourge and Voltic Strike. Them with Drifting Contact of taking it to 100% status from its base 30. And then Body Count, Drifting Contact, and of course Prime Pressure Point. 0 formers needed. This is why I do like melee weapons and using the stances here, because it adds an extra 10 points and that's pretty much all you need. If you were going to former this, I would say a V and possibly a dash or 2. And even though you will lose some of the status going from 100%, you could of course replace some of the dual stat mods with full-on elemental mods to increase the elemental damage, which of course condition overload, adding that 60% melee damage for each status type affecting the enemy, will then of course be doing more damage as well. But however you actually set your own one of these up, this was actually a pretty decent weapon. It's not going to replace any of the big hammers because they do a lot more damage, but they do have a much slower attack speed. the 18% crit chance on this. I did try a couple crit builds here and there, but I settled on the elemental side of it simply because that 1.6 times multiplier and 18% crit chance was just a bit low. And now that Naramon doesn't have the shadow step there, so you can go invisible using crit, I've found myself moving a little bit away from crit, apart from the weapons I already have built and set up for crit because they're obviously set up to do more damage. This, sadly, doesn't have the same kind of numbers other hammers do. That's where you have to remember, this is more of an axe hammer. So taking that into account, because the glass parts look like kind of mini axes stuck on the side, comparing it to other axes is probably better than actually comparing it to hammers. And when you compare it to something like the Cindo Prime, that does 104 slash with 13 puncture and 13 impact, does have half the status that this has, but does an extra 2% crit, taking it to 20%, and 2 times multiplier instead of 1.6. But again, it has an attack speed of 0.967. The Volnus has a 1.20, so it may look like it does less damage, but you can swing it quicker, which is the thing's saving feature. If that attack speed was a lot lower than it is, this thing would actually kind of suck. But as it is, this is actually a pretty decent axe hammer, a lovely combination of the two, and to be fair, I'm not going to retire any of my axes or any of my hammers for this, but if this had come out before something like the Heliocore did, which does a nice amount of damage, or even the Frago Prime, which does similar kind of damage but is more based on the impact side of it, the impact and crit side of it, I think I might have been tempted, because that 1.20 attack speed, definitely this thing's saving feature. If it wasn't for that, this weapon would have sucked. But we'll leave this off here for now. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch yous next time.